live? Are we live? What happened to our beautiful intro? I think I was making like Are we good? Can't hear you. Pretty sure it's you. Okay.
It's all good. We're live. Yeah.
Oh, phew, thank God. Okay.
Yeah.
So we deprived the world of our intro?
We played the intro.
Oh, it didn't. Okay, it didn't play on my side.
Oh, okay.
I'm so glad. I think I was making some weird face though to the world there.
Yeah.
And you showed your ass. I mean, you turned around and walked away. You were like, "Fuck this dude."
Yeah. Yeah. Had to turn on some lights. I don't have any fancy ring lights, so I use lamps and sunlight as much as possible.
Well, it's because we were using Studio C. You know,
Yeah.
usually we're an A. You know, during the Thursday block.
Mm-hmm.
But like the EPs were telling, they're just bringing them down my neck. They were like, no, we got too many shows that need that studio. And I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Mm-hmm.
Look at my contract, okay? It says right here, regular studios Thursday night. You know, with the full rig and the
Mm-hmm. No brown M&Ms.
Yeah, well, they know that.
Yeah.
They've been around. Anyway, yeah, no, it's great living the media star high life. Gotta say, it's really, it's like my old, I used to actually spend a fair amount of time in the Fox News building in Manhattan. So I've actually sort of been around it. I've seen it. It's a very funny scene. And yeah, it's true. You just sort of see these like tall, large-breasted, blonde women walking around all the time, just in the hallway, just one after the other. And lots of dudes in suits rushing around and everybody trying to make a buck sounding smart. But yeah, I don't miss those days, although it was entertaining. It was fun to be around them. And I like hung out with Ann Coulter one night in a bar, and she's quite lovely in person. Quite lovely. Had a great time with her. Anyway, we're not here to drop names, Michael.
It's lonely at the top, then. It's lonely at the top.
Well, I'm just sort of sad that I no longer have that life, I just don't get calls to Fox News anymore. Haven't for a long time. I will say one thing. This is true. Sean Hannity in 2014, he asked me basically to be get this regular liberal voice on his show to debate with. Because he had me on and I talked about something like, like I was defending like rap music or something like that. And he just took that as, oh, that means you're a liberal and everything. So come on my show and let me yell at you about being a liberal. And I did it one more time. And then I had to explain to them, yeah, no, I'm farther from a liberal than you are, Sean.
You should have taken it, Thad. You should have started stepping and fetching as the token liberal over at Fox.
Yells at massa.
Ooh.
Give me that representation. Where are we going here? What's happening tonight?
Oh man, the news is so sad. I don't want to just dive into the news after that.
What did they drop the nukes finally? Or
well, actually, Trump just got indicted in the last couple hours by that New York grand jury. That's breaking right now.
I guess that's his first real indictment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whoa. Right, he hasn't been indicted. He was impeached.
Yeah.
But he wasn't convicted. I guess that is the equivalent of indictment. Although no one takes that seriously. But I mean, no indictment that anyone would truly consider to be an indictment in a regular, court. Well, gosh, it was a Manhattan grand jury, so it's as stacked as it ever could be. I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed that if it's 9 people, 8 of the 9 are Democrats, maybe 7.
And the 9th is a never Trumper.
Well, yeah. Well, no, there is Staten Island. Don't forget about Staten Island, and actually like outer Queens and little pockets of Brooklyn. in the outskirts, like on the edges of the city, there are serious like Trump country out
Long
there.
Island.
Oh, Long Island for sure, but that's not the city.
Oh yeah.
But Manhattan, no. Well, Manhattan, no. There is no neighborhood in Manhattan that is known to have a majority of conservatives. In fact, we know it doesn't. There is no part of Manhattan that is even 20 or 30% Republican. So it's really, yeah, he was fucked, I guess. Although it's so preposterous, this case. This is, I mean, they've all been preposterous. Every case brought against him has been preposterous, but this is, I mean, I don't know. It just, what are you going to do? I mean, the liberals invented this dossier that included prostitutes pissing on Trump and made that into an FBI, the basis for an FBI investigation and subversion of the president of the United States. And then pretended it was totally real for 3 years to my mother on the television every night, and convinced half of America that this was all real. I mean, so they're capable of anything.
Oh, real quick, Thad, this is totally in your wheelhouse in that the liberals are being like sexual prudes at every corner for Trump. They're like, the first thing they tried to get him for was this prostitute encounter that they made up wholesale in Russia. And then now they're going after him for hush money to a porn star. Of
course. Liberals have been the leading, I would say, Puritans in American culture since Puritanism, since the Puritans were, the actual Pilgrims were around. Yeah. They are the moralistic ones. They are the scolding ones. They are the ones who keep order, feel responsible for keeping order in the whole world, not just in the United States, right? They literally feel responsible for how the people of Uganda live. They need the people of Uganda to live the way that they live, which is to love homosexuals, for instance.
Hey, real quick, yeah, that's not a random joke you made. That's an actual fight that's happening right now in global politics.
It's actually a major news story, and it's actually, I don't know if you want to jump there because it's so loaded and heavy and important, and no one understands this. I'd love to talk about it. This is
what you wanted to talk about, so please, by all means, just dive into it.
So Uganda either is about to pass or just passed an anti-homosexual law, which I believe makes it essentially illegal. It's like the old sodomy laws in the United States, which essentially made homosexuality as an act in itself illegal. I mean, you could go to prison for it.
Also made blowjobs illegal.
Right, and anal sex. Mm-hmm. Yeah, anal and oral and gay sex were made illegal. That's what sodomy encompasses these days.
Yeah.
So Uganda has been famously or infamously homophobic in its lawmaking for decades, and I believe there was another basically anti-homosexual bill that was passed there. A lot of countries in Africa are like that. And like the right wing of the Catholic Church is in Africa. Like African cardinals and bishops are like they're the MAGA of the Catholic Church. So
why are you gay?
Yes, exactly. That is the refrain in West Africa, at least. Yeah. So this is unacceptable, of course, to those who believe that the whole world and everyone living on it should adhere to American principles and values. And so there have been denunciations of this, including by my girlfriend, Corinne Jean-Pierre herself, spokesperson for the President of the United States, who denounced it in a press briefing just a few days ago. And there has been a hue and cry about it. And most importantly, of course, liberals are saying quite aggressively that the United States should withhold foreign aid, foreign aid to Uganda, and impose sanctions, even go further. This is their favorite tool these days. Impose economic sanctions on Uganda unless they repeal this bill and teach themselves to love homosexuals. Now, this is textbook imperialism. I mean, it is the attempt to impose one's own culture onto the people of another culture, to really eradicate their culture, because notions of gender and sexuality are central in every culture. So, and this is clearly something that many Ugandans, I'm not claiming that it's 100% of Ugandans are like this, but clearly it's got to be a big majority, clearly feel that homosexuality is an existential threat to them. And guess what? I don't disagree. I mean, that's your own feeling, you know. I mean, it's not to me, and it's not to anyone I know but you know, if you feel that way, then so be it, you know. And I'm not here to tell you how you should live, or certainly how people in Uganda should live. But amazingly, there are people in the world who call themselves liberals, who claim to be on the side of the oppressed and the poor, you know, people like Ugandans, and yet despise their culture, their beliefs, their values so much that they want to rid the world of them, shame them for having these beliefs, and then replace those beliefs with our beliefs about something as important as sexuality. Now, I think many people know I'm not tolerant of gays. I'm pro-gay. Like, I'm in many, many ways. So if you know where I'm coming from, I mean, please understand. Like, first of all, it's not going to work, people. You know, okay, so we put sanctions on Uganda, then they start starving to death, by the way, because that's usually what happens, you know, when you impose sanctions on third world countries, you know, like a blockade, like against Yemen. That's what happened. You know, people starve because they don't have resources, internal resources to survive with. So, you know, like, we could do that. We could starve the Ugandan people, among the poorest people on earth. They are right at the bottom, until they say uncle and I love gays and start wearing rainbow flags everywhere. So the liberals, and this is not the left, I don't know. I think the socialist left shouldn't be for this. I doubt they are. I haven't checked on them on this question. It's a great question, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But liberals are universal, as far as I can see, on this. They want essentially to go to war. In fact, many of them, I'm sure, wouldn't mind sending in the Marines. I mean, no kidding. And, like, you know, imposing martial law in Uganda until they repeal that law, and more importantly, start wearing the rainbow flag. So this is just outright, abject, unabashed imperialism, backed up with the military might of the United States, backed up with the economic supremacy of the United States. That's why they can do this, and they can do real harm, and they will do real harm. There probably will be sanctions on Uganda, and there will probably be babies who don't get their formula. And then also, as in Iran, they've had sanctions on medical supplies often in the past, and people died of cancer at far higher rates because of that.
Mm-hmm. All in the name of feminism.
All in the name of, right, of liberating the women of Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When, in fact, they are doing a damn good job of that themselves. They don't need our fucking help to take off their veils. They seem to be having a great time doing it, in fact. And God bless them, unless they're working for the CIA. And boy, that's a whole can of worms. It's like messing up my whole worldview these days, because my alt-right buddies pointed out to me that, no, the CIA is almost definitely involved in this rebellion in Iran. And I thought, of course, Jesus Christ, I felt so stupid to not assume that. But if you know the history of the CIA, you should assume that. And it's almost certainly true. I mean, I haven't seen like any hard evidence of that, but I bet pretty much everything on that being the case. But anyway, so Uganda. So yes,
I'm just imagining the CIA going, you know what? Let's keep our hands off this revolution in Iran. You know what? The last 3 or 4 times we attempted a revolution there, we learned our lesson. This time we're going to stay hands off.
Hey, not our business.
Yeah.
Hey, easy, buddy. Yeah. Yep. That's not for us. That's not has nothing to do with America.
Yeah.
We are for self-determination. I mean, there was, I don't think there was anyone in the British or Spanish empires who was as ruthlessly, universalistically imperialistic as these people. The sort of liberal deep state, foreign service, CIA, intelligence community in DC, those people, you know, they are way less than 1% of the population. They're freaks, they're weirdos. But there's just, you know, unfortunately, there's like 1 in 1,000 people who really want to manage the entire earth and all the people on it. And so, but yeah, they are zealots. They are religious in their belief in American supremacy. And they are willing to do anything they can get away with to achieve unchallenged American hegemony in the world. It's really just something else. And these are people who are often called neocons, but you know, there's a lot of people who are lifelong, most of them are Democrats. And in fact, the neocons are now Democrats. They've fled back to the Democrats where they belong, where they started out. But anyway, yeah. So the left, I would think that Jacobin will write some piece criticizing this as imperialism. It'll be interesting to see what they do. They're kind of the leading voice of the real socialist left. And it's always important to keep track of them because it's an important wing, you know, of American politics these days, and now actually has a lot of influence, like in a big wing of the Democratic Party. So it's not like the old days when socialists were totally marginal. But anyway, and they're the ones, I mean, one of the differences between the left, like Jacobin, and liberals is on stuff like this, on foreign policy. They generally agree with me on this stuff, or anti-interventionist, harsh critics of the American empire. Really, I mean, pretty much they're all, I believe, maybe with a couple of exceptions, in favor of the dismantling the entire American empire, closing every single base, bringing every soldier home, which is what I'm for. So I would think they would see this for that. But then again, when it's about gays, the orthodoxy is more heavily and fiercely enforced these days than on any other issue, right? There's always like one issue at a moment where everybody's focused and you can't fuck up at all. You'll get expelled from the party if you say anything out of line with this one thing. That's right. These days it's sexuality and gender because of the trans thing. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. They're going to get a lot of heat for saying anything like that from huge parts of liberalism. Mm-hmm. But we'll see anyway. So it's really amazing that liberals who claim to stand for the rights of the people of the third world, of course, they want to impose those rights on them at the tip of a gun. So it's amazing that these are the very same people who are calling for like outright imperialist intervention to change these people's minds. This is not like going in there and stealing their oil. That's one form of imperialism. This is an attempt, quite literally, to change the way that they think. That level of imperialism. Tell me who is more domineering, those people in the State Department these days or Queen Victoria? You know, I mean, and the Spanish monarchs who ruled the world. None of them wanted to do that. I mean, I take that back. The Spanish did, of course. They did try to change people's minds on a mass scale. And how do we see that? Mm-hmm. Today? I mean, we see that as one of the greatest, maybe the worst set of atrocities ever committed on Earth, right? What the Spanish did in Latin America. So it's that level. It's that level. And it's liberals, the lovers of the poor and the benighted and the brown.
Joel Schlossberg in the chat brought this up. Does Thad know the famous C.S. Lewis quote about the most relentless tyrants being do-gooders who do it in their own good conscience? I was thinking about that exactly as you were talking about this.
There's like, I think an H.L. Mencken quote that's sort of similar to that. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Find it, Joel, and put it and show it to us.
He quoted it. I've got it right now.
Okay, good.
I just want to share it. I don't know why my windows are so weird right now, but
and then to have Corinne Jean-Pierre, the child of Haitian immigrants, deliver this denunciation of the Ugandan government's decision. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victim may be the most oppressive. It may be better to live under the robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies.
Yep.
The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at sometimes be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. there's no end to it. And this is what we are seeing in Ukraine, that it's just, and I actually, having studied these people for like a couple decades, I didn't quite get that about them until Ukraine. And especially sort of studying the history of the Ukraine war, which I didn't really know until it started last year. But all the background, the color revolutions, which is really what people need to be talking about. The color revolutions, which is, by the way, in every continent. There was a color revolution essentially in Taiwan in 2015, 2015, which led to this current possibly World War III causing conflict. That was all CIA run. Like, I don't even think that's disputed, that the color revolutions were all and Soros.
I consider the election in 2020 in the United States a color revolution.
Color revolution right there too. Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Meaning that there were mass organizations, meaning organizations of significant portions of the population who were mobilized and paid to agitate, what used to be called agitate, to do agitation and propaganda on a mass scale. And I think that's been demonstrated. I mean, between the Democrats and Soros, and then there's a few other billionaires too who did this as well. I mean, look at all the organizations who get money from them. I mean, it's an astonishing array of organizations and some institutions with staff, large staff. And then with each one, there's like an army of volunteers also. They have huge mailing lists, and and every Hollywood celebrity is ready to get out on the streets for them and do commercials for them and get on TV for them and go on Jimmy Kimmel for them. I mean, they have the biggest megaphone in the entire world. So they got like truly a significant, they got the entire media establishment to be their PR for free. I mean, so, they have quite an advantage, Just imagine, Michael, if people with your belief system and your worldview controlled media and academia at the same time. Can you imagine that?
Every day.
That's exactly what we're working toward, isn't it?
That's what I'm working on here.
Give us, I think 5 years. And
5 years, yeah.
Harvard's done. Yeah. It's possible. I think Harvard will be around, but clearly a lot of the unis and colleges are going down.
What's that projection? Like a third of state universities are going to be out of business in like 5 years. There's some crazy projection like that. The way things are going.
One can only hope. Of course, my son is currently in a public university, but just wait. So once he's graduated, then I want that to happen. But no, I mean, a lot of the legacy institutions will be fine for quite a while. I mean, I don't see Harvard's not going to go down. I mean,
the Ivies have their endowments. Those are the size of nations. Yeah,
they have almost infinite endowments. The university, the big University of California. I mean, that's all up to the voters. So that they could be voted out. I mean, it'd be a pretty serious shock to the system of California to eliminate the University of California, but it's possible. But then a lot of the second tier and third tier colleges, like a couple of that I worked at recently, like Willamette and Occidental, they're elite colleges, they're national liberal arts colleges, but they need to have steady inflow of applicants, and they're not getting them. And men now, hardly any men go to college anymore, or it's just fewer men than ever. And gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Why would you want to, as a young man, let's see, why would you not want to go? What would be the problem with going to college, these days, spending 4 years, especially if you're a man who's not, feminine.
Well, spend 4 years going to debt, spend 4 of your most productive years as a man going to debt, and then be told that you're the problem, that you're the source of everything wrong in the world, and that you're completely irredeemable. And
no, it's good times. But masculinity being shamed at every turn is a blast to be around. You get used to it though. You become like a eunuch.
Yeah.
It's like the inversion of the Handmaid's Tale, the Handboy's Tale or something. it's where, no, really, it's like I just
Oh.
felt like I was walking around with a cloak on all the time, trying not to be seen and trying to take up no space, as they say, and never exhibiting any of my own personality. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Around professors, around the students, I was myself, but around the faculty and the staff there, oh God, no, I never showed myself. I would never let them see me, because they would immediately say stuff that was, you know, disdainful. And I was told that my personality actually was one of the reasons they didn't like me at Barnard, and the people who wanted to get rid of me. And they said it was they didn't use this word, but it was really my masculine affect. That's basically what they were saying. They used words like brashness and bold and arrogance or something like that. Or, but it was definitely, these were synonyms for masculinity. They don't like it. It's not allowed. This is something that's underappreciated.
Yeah. There's a phenomenon in Gen Z where everybody has like a gay accent, has like a feminine way of talking.
What is that?
Yeah. I mean, it's just where the culture is going, I guess. Yeah.
God, your generation is just tripping me out. You guys are even weirder than the millennials.
No, yeah, the millennials are understandable. Like, they're still human beings who just took the lazy way out. Yeah.
Yeah. They can read the written word, which is nice. You guys, I mean, truly, like, the written word is gone, right? There won't be any writers anymore. Speaking of AI, by the way.
Yeah.
One of our topics tonight. I mean, think about this. Think about writing, the practice of writing, the art of writing. So AI is certainly threatening a lot of that. I think not all of it, and I have an argument to make about that. But then there's writing is also being threatened by your generation being the first generation to be on screens, but to use screen to consume information via video, principally, like overwhelmingly, right? I mean, I think even I do this now, but nowadays, pretty much, I think everyone gets the bulk of their information from videos. Am I right about that? I think so.
Yeah, well, it's even worse than that. It's 15-second videos.
Well, right.
Yeah, nowadays.
Well, no, I mean when people, I'm not talking about entertainment. I'm talking about actual useful information of some kind, including politics or how to fix your car, anything like that, right? So we used to read to obtain all information. Like, all that information was all through reading, right? Occasionally you'd get a teacher tell you something, but overwhelmingly it was through the written word. And now it's overwhelmingly through watching YouTube videos and the like. And so that's really wonderful in a whole lot of ways, but it sort of hit me the other day when I was talking to a kid who's 13 now, and in talking to him, I realized, like, he just doesn't, there's no interaction with the written word anymore. It's all through videos. And I thought, well, wait, does this mean there will be no novels anymore? Who's going to write the screenplays? Is poems? Are we not doing poetry anymore? Is poetry done? Or are we just going to do like video poems? And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's the way to go. I mean, but, you know, like, it's sort of,
everything will have to be transcribed after the fact.
And so you have the rise of AI at this exact moment to take up that slack. So yeah, we know what will be doing the writing, but it looks now to me like the bulk of writing that will be done from now on will be done by machines, because you all can't write, and your children will be even worse. And we now have these machines who can do it. Now, the thing the machines can't, I don't think, replicate is human creativity. So they will absolutely be able to refashion data that has already been produced by human beings into something new, I suppose. But that's it. I mean, it's going to be ideas, not just raw data, but ideas, concepts, and data that have already been produced by humans. They'll just, as I understand it, AI just takes that from the vast universal database of all recorded information and then just puts it together in a way that makes sense for a particular question that is relevant to that past, human created past. So I don't see it transcending that. I don't see it transcending the field of information knowledge that's been created by human beings. I don't see it creating something entirely new, something that you can't trace its roots back to human beings and their consciousness.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we are the gods who created AI, essentially. Yeah.
Right.
But eventually there will come a point where AI will have to predict and come up with its own prompts. So like right now, there's courses being sold about how to write the best prompt for AI, because, that's what you have to do. You have to tell the AI tool to give you what you want. And so there's courses now teaching you how to talk to AI. And maybe that's going to be taught in schools, like professionally nowadays. Yeah.
That's interesting. Wow. Why?
Yeah.
Right. That'll be the job.
Yeah.
People have going forward. People sort of like me, right? People who might be writers will do that. They will be, what is it? AI tutors or something. They'll like be AI prompters.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, in the same way that like somebody is proficient in Excel, somebody will have to be proficient in Chat GPT. Like,
well, no, but to understand how essentially to hack it.
Yeah.
Right. To suit your purposes.
Yeah.
That's going to be a very developed skill set and it's going to require specific talents too. So, and I would bet that is a lot of people who would otherwise be novelists and screenwriters will be doing that.
Yeah. The Hotep Jesus dictum, shut up and code, is basically this, right? Is that this future is coming whether we want it or not. So we all better learn how to become cyberpunks and learn how to jailbreak stuff and use it for our own advantage. There's that clip of Justin Murphy that's going viral right now where he was talking about this, saying that everybody who's talking about AI right now is talking about, oh, how do we use it in alignment, or use all these buzzwords about AI to make it safe and protect it, when the truth of the matter is the cat's already out of the bag. Pandora's box has already been opened. Everybody, it's war right now. Everybody has to use it for their own purposes and learn it now.
Right. But I do not understand this letter that's been signed, this open letter that's been signed by Elon Musk and 1,000 tech luminaries, as I understand it, including what's his face from the original Apple, Wozniak.
Yes.
Steve Wozniak. So as I understand it, it's big names in tech. I mean, super smart people, right? We're talking about kind of the smartest people, in a technical way in the world. Sign this letter, not only calling for private companies to cease research and experiments on artificial intelligence for 6 months. And if that doesn't happen, if the companies don't do it voluntarily, this letter calls on the federal government to shut it down. What? How? Where did this even come from? I didn't hear warnings. I mean, I had Joe Allen on my show, who's a professional critic of transhumanism and AI.
Well, real quick,
I don't.
When famously a few years ago, when Elon Musk went on Joe Rogan and smoked that blunt, all he was talking about was AI, and basically saying, I've been warning humanity about AI for years. Nobody listened. And I just gave up on it. Sam Harris was always talking about how AI is like the biggest potential threat to humanity. That there's Neil deGrasse Tyson, basically all the science types are basically calling AI the thing.
So I never realized this till today. Yeah, I knew about Sam Harris and AI. Not surprised that deGrasse Tyson has said this about AI. They want to shut it down. So I'm trying to figure this out right now, because this seems to me to be a flagrant contradiction in their thinking. These are the high priests of scientism. These are the guys who've been telling us for years, especially during COVID, believe scientists. Truth can be found through the scientific method. I love science, is what they've been saying. We should all love science, but most importantly, love scientists and make them our leaders. This is exactly what these guys have been saying for years now. And now all of a sudden, possibly the greatest scientific breakthrough ever, they want to stop in its tracks, thwart it, ban science from being done. They want to stop science all of a sudden. I'm new to this, but do you understand what's going on here?
Yes. Well, I don't know what the end game is for certain people. I do like Elon Musk. I really do like Elon Musk.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you like Elon Musk?
He bought Twitter
Okay.
At a personal loss to him, like at a financial loss.
Okay.
He didn't have to do that. And I don't think he was altruistic about it necessarily. It's just this is the belly of the beast. He cut off the head of the dragon. And I'm very grateful for that. Honestly, my Twitter experience has been a lot better since he took it down. But I don't know what the 3D chess is being played here, because I think what they're trying to do is just consolidate who's working on AI, so it's the fewest people as possible, fewest number of people as possible, because federal governments aren't going to stop working on AI. This is an arms race right now, and China's not going to stop working on AI, and I don't think
that's the problem.
The United States military is not going to stop working on it.
Right.
So it's probably a play by Elon Musk to get in the good graces of the federal government for contracts on AI, where it's exclusive. It's kind of where they're exclusively working with him. I think that's kind of
no, I know what it is now. It's it's government cartelization of it, an attempt to cartelize, monopolize this new industry in order to control it, but also, and this probably is more important for them, for the government, to stop private entities from eliminating vast swaths of occupations. Sort of, when, at a moment that may be quite inopportune for someone's election chances, right? Let's say in the state of California, for instance, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Gavin Newsom is behind this or has something to do with it, because there's gonna be mass unemployment. They're afraid that there will be mass unemployment in especially a place like California. Well, the dude is trying to run for president. So if he has mass unemployment in his own state, he ain't going to be the president. And he's their only chance right now after Biden. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's all because of this, but I bet you a lot of it is.
Okay. Schlossberg, again, made a good point in the chat. He's on fire today. You want to know the difference between science and tech? The reason why scientists like Einstein wanted nuclear disarmament, because he knew the technology would be too effective. I think that's part of the motive for Musk here, I think.
So yeah, I knew this question was going to come in. So a couple of differences. The atom bomb was invented for one purpose only, which was to inflict mass casualties on human beings. So that's pretty different than artificial intelligence. It's also, by the way, very different from the production of guns, right? It's different. There's no self-defense involved here. Certainly not when it was invented. But it's about it's about killing masses of people who, by definition, many of whom must be innocent. It was also a government creation. And so I am all for stopping governments from conducting science. Yes, sir. In particular, and most importantly these days, bioweapons. Because not only did we get COVID most likely from the attempt of governments to produce bioweapons through science, we have bioweapons now in labs all over the world sponsored by the US government that could leak out any time, or maybe worse, be deployed against human beings, and probably will be at some point. That's why they're being invented and created and deployed all around the world. So those are really big differences, right? Government projects whose object was to create weapons of mass destruction, yeah, You know, in those very specific cases, I'm all for stopping science dead in its fucking tracks. When it's something as broad and all-encompassing as artificial intelligence, for God's sake, which I suppose could be used, of course, to produce weapons and maybe even nuclear bombs, nonetheless, it has literally infinite other applications and possibilities. So no, and it's in the hand mostly of the private sphere, private sector. So so sorry, Joel, but good question.
But imagine what what the government could do with the most advanced AI out there. Imagine how easy it would be to foment a color revolution if you had an AI generate the thing that would trigger a culture to protest in the perfect way possible. And
I know. I just said I'm all for stopping governments from having that. We should ban governments from certain technologies. Absolutely. Don't we all agree on that?
Yeah.
Be laws about that, right? We ban the government. We ban the federal government in this country from many things, like impinging on our speech. There's a ban on that. We could have another amendment.
Yeah.
The Bill of Rights, ban them from producing weapons of mass destruction, which would be certain applications of AI. So ban them from using it. They don't need AI.
Yeah. So this petition has to be an attempt to concentrate power, right? Right. That's bring it back to the petition, right? Like,
well, I mean, I do think it's a Democratic Party move.
Okay.
But in part, I mean, I think there's probably other things going on. So we're both cynical about this. We think that they don't really fear the advent of AI.
I think they do fear the advent of AI.
Okay.
I just think these tech CEOs see themselves as the most informed people on it. And if anything is going to be done with it, they want to be in on it. So I think forming it, because I think maybe the Democrats or somebody is going to ban AI in the future, maybe regardless of this petition. So I think getting ahead of it might be a good strategic move to be on the inside.
Well, did any CEO from the AI space sign this letter?
No? I'd have to look.
Yeah, that's the question. I should have.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk is working on it with what's that brain thing he's working on? Elon Musk is definitely in the AI space.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, he's working on everything in tech. That's true. So, but you're just saying it's a move against their competitors, or it's?
I think so. I think it's a move, like with space, like SpaceX, like space travel is so tied with government funding, and I think that the potential for AI to be used as a weapon means that the government is going to be involved in some way or another. So I think part of it is getting ahead of it and forming a political coalition so that everybody's on the same page about this stuff.
Interesting. They want to be the leaders of that industry.
I think so.
That world changing industry. Well, they are all megalomaniacs just by definition. I mean, you don't get to that position in the world without being. I mean, these are the robber barons of our time. These are the John Rockefellers and Andrew Carnegies of our time. Rockefeller and Carnegie at the turn of the 20th century, they wanted to run the whole world. They were imperialists in a way. They just didn't hold state power. But that's why all the buildings are named Rockefeller or Carnegie. That's why science labs and institutes and universities are named Rockefeller and Carnegie, right? Same impulse. These are the same weird human beings who want to be the fathers of the world.
Yeah.
Now tech dudes, and this is part of that, right? They want their name on it, baby. Maybe.
Most likely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Matthew McDermott in the chat. Yeah, it's Neuralink. That's the AI
Neuralink.
project.
Oh yeah, Neuralink. Yeah. Well, Neuralink's what's being used in Ukraine. Isn't that just a satellite information?
No, that's something else. The government is trying to force.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. I know what Neuralink is. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah,
there is an Elon Musk. What's the Elon Musk thing in Ukraine? What's that called? The satellite.
The satellite thing, man. He has so many projects.
Satellite communications system that the Ukrainian army is using.
Shoot, I forget the name of that right now, but
Musk has been heavily subsidizing the Ukrainian army, or at least he was.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Okay.
I want to make a note on the robber barons, like socialists hate. Oh, Starlink? Was it Starlink?
Starlink. Thank you.
Yeah.
Neuralink, Starlink.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Starlink.
But the socialists hate the robber barons so much. Like because they're the start of all the anti-trust laws and the anti-monopoly laws that they love so much.
Yep.
But again, the refrain of libertarians is Standard Oil made oil cheaper for all of us every step of the way. Like they literally, the monopoly on oil was a genuine outcompeting of other companies. And
well, the super dope old school new left 1960s new left and libertarian analysis, which began with Gabriel Kolko and then was amplified by Murray Rothbard. So that's a Marxist and a libertarian. Both were in on this theory, demonstrated in Kolko's books pretty brilliantly, I think, was that all the attempts at regulation, all the attempts at antitrust regulation, all the actual legislation that was passed during that period, late 19th, early 20th centuries, is what actually produced the monopolies.
Yeah.
It actually ended up, right? It's kind of, this is regulatory capture, that theory.
Mm-hmm.
Regulations like that generally tend to favor the incumbent, make it raise the barrier to entry in an industry, make it harder for competitors to enter an industry, et cetera. And that was sort of the beginning of that process, actually. So, sorry.
Yes. No. Yeah. The progressive era was Rothbard's book, which is great. Yeah. I'm not arguing with super smart socialists like Gabriel Kolko. I'm arguing with the type that were in my well, the type that you see online and that you see in elementary schools telling you what history was.
Right. What's really sad about that story is that so Rothbard discovered Gabriel Kolko's books about this and loved them. And he was like, I love you, man. And started like writing his own books based on Kolko's work and totally referencing Kolko and just adoring him. And he reaches out to Kolko. He writes a letter to Kolko, inviting him to do something. I think like either write an article for him or do a conference with him or something like that with, some libertarian outfit. And Kolko writes this letter back and basically calls him the devil and says, no, I would never stoop as low to do anything with someone of the likes of you, because he was a libertarian. I mean, whoa. So, but they agreed on this like very fundamental aspect of the American economy. I mean, the world economy. I mean, this is, in some ways, that analysis is crucial to understanding the whole thing, right? Because that's the origin of the corporatist structure we have now that rules the world, when, greater regulation led to more government intrusion into markets, but it also led to a concentration and centralization of corporations who then were more closely regulated by the government and therefore were more amenable and manageable by the government and have been. So that's who's ruled the world ever since. So everyone should go read Gabriel Kolko.
Yeah. But tying this to the robber barons, I think the robber barons are just like that C.S. Lewis quote. Their motivations are better than that of the government, who is a lot more self-righteous, and they're a lot smarter than the government when it comes to their own industry, especially.
Right.
We see this with the TikTok hearing, the hearings about banning TikTok, where they had the ByteDance CEO brought to question, and all these congressmen sounded absolutely clueless. They sounded like they didn't even know how to operate their own Wi-Fi modems, and they're talking about the most advanced algorithm out there. The young congressmen aren't any better either. The young Congress people are just repeating like Facebook talking points about and when the other tech CEOs like Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey were brought in front of Congress, same deal. Every time these, so I actually have some sympathy for Zuckerberg and Dorsey as well. I think that they're under a lot of pressure with the threat of government regulation constantly hanging over them, that they have to act certain ways, and if they were left alone, they would act a lot more in line with the libertine and libertarian values of the original Silicon Valley.
Yep. 1932, Franklin Roosevelt's elected president. He's inaugurated in 1933 and immediately starts making noises about how Hollywood was glorifying gangsters. And
which they were.
Most despicably, these Hollywood movies were showing policemen in a sort of disrespectful light, and glorifying these gangsters against the policemen. Well, if you are a good aspiring politician who wants to manage people, who wants to govern people, who wants to rule, well, you need respect for authority. So he started making a lot of noises, both publicly and privately, to Hollywood executives, saying, yo, bro, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to shut you down. I'm going to censor you. And lo and behold, look at the timing, 1934, the Motion Picture Production Code, otherwise known as the Code, was enacted by the Hollywood studios and they imposed it on themselves. The federal government, no government had anything to do with it directly, but anybody with half a brain knows that it was because of the threat issued in many ways by Roosevelt and the federal government, which is exactly what happened with tech. It's exactly, they hauled them literally before Congress, shamed them on national television, on CNN. Everybody in every airport saw Mark Zuckerberg getting, browbeaten by these senators, and they sent them back to San Francisco with the instructions. You will do what we say, or we're going to fuck your shit up. And we can, because we're the federal government. We've done it before. The federal government the federal government fucked Microsoft, for God's sake, big time with an antitrust case. They've taken on the biggest corporations in American history over and over again and broken them down and done all sorts of things with them if they want to. Generally, they want to keep them around and so that they can manage them. But they're fine with destroying some upstart company that is so disruptive it threatens their rule, as did Hollywood. Hollywood, if it had been left to its own devices, boy, oh boy, I don't think there would have been a New Deal. I don't think there would have been a Franklin Roosevelt presidency for very long, not for 4 terms. And I don't think if the internet were completely unregulated, the Democratic Party would continue to rule any longer. I don't see it. Their power is resting on too many lies, too many momentous lies that have affected the lives of so many people. And there are so many people who are curious and investigative and are able to find information and then are able to disseminate it unless they are throttled and censored by social media companies. I don't see an unregulated internet yielding any future Democratic presidents.
The Twitter files, man. Everybody needs to get out there and read the Twitter files because still, like, this is such a huge news story, and this is another reason why I like Elon Musk, is that the buying Twitter is one thing, doing the Twitter files and having all this stuff be made public with really good journalists behind it is another great thing. Sadly, the legacy media will never report on this, but what would you do if you got emails from the FBI telling you how to do your business? Would you tell the FBI to go screw themselves? Is that what you're going to do?
Michael, here's the thing. So when the Twitter files first hit, just like everybody else, I was stoked. I was up early reading them. I was like, we nailed them. We got it. The federal government was directly censoring people in clear violation of the First Amendment for political purposes. Yeah, this is the biggest scandal of our time. This is the most important free speech case of our time, maybe ever. Oh boy, we win. This is awesome. No one gives a fuck. No one cares. Have you noticed? There's been this because there's been no real fight ever since. There's no drama going on about it anymore. For a day, 2 days, nothing, not even. They got the drama done in the hearing. They told their liberal base what the liberal base wanted to know, which is that these guys are not real journalists. And most importantly, they all believe that they were just paid by Elon Musk to say what Elon Musk wants. And that's what everybody who watches CNN and MSNBC believes, and they can go their merry way.
Well, Thad, don't you know that rich people are the bad guys?
Right.
Don't you know that it's bad to want money? Money is evil, Thad.
Oh, I know. I know. Oh, there was money exchanged? Oh, we can't tolerate that. And, and everyone knows that, people who watch MSNBC are dirt poor, working class, part-time truck drivers, in Wichita. No, yeah, they're quite wealthy, as a matter of fact. But yeah, no one cares, man. No one cares. This is, I think, it's the grossest violation of the First Amendment, certainly in my lifetime. I don't know. I mean, other than the CIA's ongoing Operation Mockingbird, which clearly they instruct the major media outlets what to say about certain topics like foreign policy. It's like always happening, but stopping certain information is one thing. To mold the information, to shape it, which is what the CIA has been doing, but to stop it, and the FBI, but to stop the people from speaking, hey man, that's some King George shit. Remember, this is like original America we're talking about here. Did we forget? No, we never even had that in mind. So no, this is a big deal, but no one cares, man. No one cares. And in fact, I would say all the momentum is actually toward hate speech laws.
Yes.
The First Amendment is fucked completely, totally. I don't see it really lasting de facto through my lifetime. I just don't. It's no one gives a fuck about it anymore.
Well, it all depends. I'm just sad when the next generation of Supreme Court justices get in, like, what law school is going to teach lawyers about the tradition of the First Amendment and like how it's a good thing and how it's the cornerstone of all
we know.
rights.
I mean, it's fine. The Stanford law professors, we know what they're going to teach their students.
Yeah.
I mean, now that's a little unfair. I mean, I'm sure there are excellent constitutional lawyers at Stanford Law, but you see what the culture of the school is.
Yes.
There's a lot of law students in that room, a lot of them, and they must represent an even broader portion of the student body there. And the damn dean of students was clearly one of them. So it is a major part of, I mean, this boy. And in fact, Ilya Shapiro just wrote a piece. I haven't read it yet, but he wrote a piece just yesterday, I think, about this, about how we are fucked because of what's going on in law schools, that law schools are kind of the leading edge of wokeness. And these kids don't know anything about the Constitution. And the main problem is they don't care. They don't care about the Constitution. That's, the sophisticated ones would say that's irrelevant because times have changed. But most of them are just thinking, that's the white man's law.
Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. We need to cover what's really happening this week. So,
yes,
Bill.
This is all covered.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it, but we're running out of time. The Bill S686 is super important. The bill to ban TikTok and whatnot, all that. It seems to be pretty popular in the Senate, actually. So it's kind of scaring me that Republicans are really, really gunning for this.
Speaking of the First Amendment, by the way.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, Rand Paul was great on this yesterday in his exchange with Josh Hawley. But the big thing about this is the specter of national security is being brought up once again, like it was in the Patriot Act, to give government complete control over all internet communications and all technology and all communication in general, to stop this thing called disinformation, which is another buzzword now. This bill would ban the use of VPNs to access TikTok. So if you can ban TikTok, you can ban any other website or technology like that, any other app.
Right.
So basically, the internet is completely surrendered under government control now with this bill, and it's exactly like the Patriot Act, and Republicans are pushing for it now, and Democrats are fighting it only because the culture of TikTok leans a little bit more left. And so the mechanism that they use to reach young people would be compromised if TikTok were to be banned. So you have AOC being against this ban, and you have Jamal Bowman saying Republicans ain't got no swag. So that's why they're trying to ban TikTok, yo. But yeah, it's George Bush Patriot Act all over again.
As I said, as I've been said, this is the theme of the show, is the First Amendment under assault on many fronts. And this is just the latest. And well, there's multiple fronts right now. And, this is huge. Huge shout out credit to Tucker Carlson for having Glenn Greenwald on to tell his very anti-CCP audience that this is bad for them, that this bill will end up squashing their right to speech more than it will do anything to harm the Chinese Communist Party. And it was great because Carlson tends to be, of course, anti-CCP. That's what the main thing he wants to say usually, but he gets it. And so, yes, this is another horrendous Trojan horse carrying soldiers against our right to speak. It's devastating. I don't know. It's done. For First Amendment, it's done.
Yeah. Everybody remembers SOPA and PIPA, and like every couple of years, there's an attempt to control the internet, and this is another Trojan horse bill like that. And I'm just really concerned that the Republicans, for the first time, are falling for it in a way that they didn't used to. I think the internet culture is sophisticated, and they know how dangerous an algorithm like TikTok can be. So they are rightfully concerned about the dangers of this, but they are falling for it. And the specifics of this bill are horrible.
It won't pass, though.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I think, I think this is one instance where I'm glad that Democrats retained a majority on this. Yeah,
true. Yeah, even though they oppose it just for purely cynical political reasons. It's sort of like, it's similar to the way that they are for or against immigration restriction, right? Because they assume the immigrants are going to vote for them. It's the same kind of cynicism. And then passing it off as this concern for the poor of the world, right? We care about free speech. No, you don't. You care about having dumb liberal girls on TikTok dancing with Hillary Clinton shirts on. Which I think that's kind of that level, right? But that's important. That's an important level.
Yeah. No,
cultural. It's a culture. It's Democratic Party acculturation.
Yeah, and sort of like Instagram was for a while, but it's also. I mean, like Obama. Obama like was on MySpace in 2008. I think he had a huge Twitter presence, and Democrats were on the leading edge of being social media savvy, and that's how they got the side of a lot of young voters in the 2010s. And Republicans are kind of boomers on this stuff, and so it's a disadvantage for them.
Yeah, it's distressing. It's distressing. Do we have videos you want to look at tonight?
Let me show the exchange between Hawley and Rand Paul.
Perfect.
Hawley.
Speaking of that, Josh Hawley, who wants to ban pornography from the internet. Speaking of assaults on the First Amendment.
Yeah, man. And
yet another one.
There was so much.
Many. No one likes free speech anymore. No one.
Yeah. Marco Rubio and Josh Hawley were making all these jokes about, Rand Paul, you can watch all your dancing and booty videos all you want, because that's obviously all you care about, right? Is you just want to watch some. Yeah.
They say booty?
Marco Rubio did.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Little Marco's growing up.
Yeah. It's a Florida thing.
Yeah, right.
Target this threat specifically. That's what this bill does that we have before us today. It goes right at the problem. It bans TikTok in this country. It protects the American people. And it sends the message to communist China that you cannot buy us. And so I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs be discharged from further consideration of S-85 and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration. I further ask that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there an objection?
Madam President.
Senator from Kentucky.
Reserving the right to object. There are two main reasons why we might not want to do this. The one would be the First Amendment to the Constitution. Speech is protected whether you like it or not. The second reason would be is that the Constitution actually prohibits bills of attainder. You're not allowed to have a specific bill against a person or a company. So this fails on two egregious points, pretty obvious points, and I think we ought to think about that. I think we should beware of those who peddle fear. I think we should beware of those who use fear to coax Americans to relinquish our liberties, to regulate and limit our First Amendment rights. Every accusation of data gathering that's been attributed to TikTok could also be attributed to domestic big tech companies.
Boom.
In fact, one of the bills they're looking at doing is broad enough that the president will be given the power to designate whatever country he sees fit to be an adversary and whatever company underneath that definition. It would basically be a limitless authority for the president to ban speech. If Republicans want to continuously lose elections for a generation, they should pass this bill to ban TikTok.
Why not?
A social media app used by 150 million people, primarily young Americans. This brilliant strategy comes while polls indicate that 71% of young women and men, 53% of young men voted for a Democrat candidate for Congress. Admittedly, many Democrats have joined Republicans in calling for this ban, but like most issues, the blame will stick to the Republicans more. The Republican strategy to ban TikTok comes simultaneously with GOP complaints of domestic social media companies canceling and censoring conservatives. Without a hint of irony, many of these same conservatives now rail against censorship while advocating for censorship against social media apps they worry are influenced by the Chinese.
Right on. Before
banning TikTok, these censors might want to discover that China already bans TikTok. Do we really want to emulate Chinese speech bans? Are we the ones that say it's wrong for China to ban speech, so we're going to be just like China and ban speech we're afraid of? The vice president of FreedomWorks, John Tamney, perhaps described this situation best. Nauseating harassment of TikTok presumes Americans will be saved from Chinese authoritarianism if U.S. politicians act like Chinese authoritarians. We're going to be saved from speech if we ban it in our country. My goodness, could we think of anything more antithetical to the freedom of speech?
Yeah, I'm going to cut off there. But man, we're teaching the Cold War right now. And it reminds me so much of William F. Buckley during the Cold War saying that, to fight the Soviet Union, we need to suspend all of our principles and our ideas about freedom to destroy this giant enemy. And then a new enemy came along as soon as the Soviet Union collapsed,
Yeah, that's what happens in war every time in every country. Every country at war suppresses speech immediately. I mean, it's just, and everyone goes along with it. And so they are now painting China as essentially being at war. It's amazing how Democrats are now sounding like Donald Trump. Remember during Trump's presidency, how he was talking about China all the time, being very hawkish on China, how the Democrats were calling him out for it all the time and saying this is racist. As late as COVID, the early COVID months, remember what they were saying about his stuff on China? Oh, that's racist to call it the China virus.
Yep. Nancy Pelosi going to Chinatown in San Francisco.
Yep.
Telling everybody to kiss a China person on the lips.
Yep. And then, of course, we know about all the financial and institutional collaborations with between Democrats and Chinese government. So, and now they want to go to war because China sided with Putin. I mean, it's that's all it is. That's all. I've been hearing from other people sort of in my world that, it's more complicated than it's not. And some people think that they've always wanted to go to war with China. Like some hardcore lefty anti-war people believe that. No, it's just not true. From the 1970s until a year ago, they were fine. They were very happy with China. The Democratic Party establishment was, and most of the Republican establishment, totally fine. And now, no, because she sided with Putin in this war. The Ukraine war is determining everything. But so now TikTok, now they're suddenly, what is the actual argument? Exactly what will the CCP know about me? Well, about the United States from TikTok?
Well, remember Cambridge Analytica, right? It's kind of like that, I guess, just how valuable data is. Just think about data in general. Like, let's simplify this. Data is probably the most valuable thing to anybody right now. And TikTok is probably the best app at gathering data and predicting what people want to see and seeing what people are like.
Actually,
yeah.
Actually, in terms of cultural influence, this is important, right? Because then they can do targeted ads and targeted promotions and targeted propaganda.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. True. Now, do we care?
We care, but
Make me scared. Make me scared.
Well, the point that Rand Paul brought up is, I mean, we already do this like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and all of our super powerful tech companies are already in bed with the government. So, and using it like that. I mean, again, the CCP is, I mean, I think I am genuinely scared of the CCP. I think Mao is the most prolific and the most ruthless murderer of the 20th century. And nobody has come to terms with that. And the party that he brought to power is still in charge. And I think we need to come to a reckoning with that. And we should definitely be skeptical of the CCP. And if the CCP has access to all this data, yeah, it could be a huge, huge foreign threat. But that doesn't mean we should abandon all of our principles on speech because just for, cynical political reasons. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you who is not for free speech. It's the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah.
Because as many people as Mao killed, in some ways, the greater damage he did was to the very notion of free thought, free speech, free inquiry, creative expression. People were literally thrown out of windows for asking questions.
Well, not even that, just this is the big thing. The Cultural Revolution destroyed old works of art, old poetry, and that's the saddest part. A lot of Chinese people
that's right.
Just weep for their own culture that they don't even know.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a very pure expression of left-wing culture, left-wing political culture. Back to Rousseau, the French Revolution was all about this great leveling. We shall equalize all people, but in so doing, they will all be made the same, and tradition will be annihilated because tradition contains hierarchy within it. And so we annihilate everyone. We start fresh. Great news is that everyone's equal now.
Yeah, and
we're all peasants.
That megalomania of thinking that you're better than all of culture ever, that, we have science and rationality now, so that means that we're smarter and that everything of the past needs to be destroyed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nothing to learn from it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes. So the idea of the Chinese Communist Party, that very organization, which has only been around for a little while, it's still a very young organization.
75 years.
Yeah, it's still very young organization. It's a lot younger than the Democrats and the Republicans, way younger. The idea of them controlling or even manipulating in any significant extent the culture, the discourse within America, the stuff you hear on the TV shows, on the news shows, on Netflix shows, on Twitter, the general discourse, and then ultimately in academia, and then within politics, people starting to talk more and more in ways that are aligned with Chinese communist culture. And one of the ways is an outright hostility to freedom of speech. And of course, the left has been saying this for many years in the guise of opposing hate speech, calling for regulation of speech radically for many years now. The Chinese communists, of course, are with them on that. They love that. And so I could see, now you are scaring me, or I'm scaring myself, I could see the CCP having real significant impact, shaping influence on the ways in which we are essentially allowed to think publicly, right? Without getting shamed for it. We will be able to say things, but we'll get publicly shamed, which is another, of course, famous tactic of the CCP. Public shaming, which is, again, that's where they and the woke left are right in line with each other. So I can see all sorts of cultural alliances between the CCP and elements of the left. They don't even need a formal alliance. They just agree on these things. And so if they are, and they've been in the universities, the CCP's been in the universities here for years and years. I taught lots of Chinese students, and most of them were CCP officials' kids, because that's who has the money or did have the money. And sure, so, there's all sorts of stuff that could, yes. So we could have a CCP inflected American culture. I could see that.
Man, and as I live on a college campus, and I've been in, here's something I've seen in some socialist dorm rooms: a copy of writings of Mao next to whatever that thing that LBJ wrote, and a picture of Jimmy Carter. Like, it's
really,
yeah.
Mao and Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some interesting similarities,
Mhm.
actually. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they're all progressives. They all wanted to start from scratch.
Yep.
They were all hostile to tradition. They wanted to equalize most people, not themselves, but they wanted to equalize the people generally. And they were willing, and they wanted to equalize people through state force.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, just on a lesser scale
Mhm.
and maybe less violently and less ambitiously, but the project is essentially the same. The Maoism and progressivism, it's essentially the same in those ways. I mean, it's about it's the old left project of equality.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're running out of time. We have to talk about, sadly, this other story, which in the political ramifications I see are Republicans once again abandoning their constitutional principles. This shooting in Nashville, and you can see how this ties to TikTok and how I think the shooter in this instance was hyper online.
I can't believe we haven't gotten to this yet.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, sorry.
We went in backwards order here, which is all good. It's part of the art. It's the craft of a free flowing conversation here. But yeah, so I'm so desensitized to this. I grew up in school pretty much post Columbine, and
wow.
yeah, I was told about school shootings. I was lectured about them, and while I was in a public school, and you know how Democrats are, and you know how people how hyper emotional they get, and they use this as a point to grandstand in front of kids about how much they love kids, and so I'm just completely desensitized. To me, this is Groundhog's Day, and I actually don't think it's that big of a story because the political optics don't work out for anybody.
Oh yeah, they do.
Well, I think here's the 3D chess that's being played is that it's getting Republicans to accept mental health red flag gun laws in the name of keeping guns out of the hands of trans people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen that rhetoric a lot on Twitter in the last few days from some big accounts saying
Republicans are soft on gun control just to stop trans people.
Yes, I've heard a lot of
people
people say on Twitter. I wish I had the receipts with me, but
That
no
is
trans
some-
person should ever be sold a gun. I've seen that a lot on Twitter in the last few days.
I mean, that's just some incredibly ignorant, stupid shit. That's pretty amazing, even for Republicans. I mean, there's been exactly one trans mass shooter.
Well, okay, let me.
Has there been more? And
Yeah, there has been.
And I'm pretty sure there've been more cis mass shooters. Am I right?
Well, personally, I don't care. I don't care if there's a mass shooting every day perpetrated by anybody of any background. I still have the right to defend myself. I don't care.
Well, yeah.
But
I'm just saying the rationale for this makes no sense because
okay, so the Colorado Springs shooter identified as non-binary, the Denver shooter identified as trans, Aberdeen identified as trans, and now Nashville identified as trans.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So a lot of the recent ones, especially, have been trans.
That's right.
Yeah.
But come on, if you want to play the identity game, I think it's about 99% cis men have been mass shooters. I don't want to play the identity game, but if you want to do that, then you would call for banning cisgender men from owning guns because they commit by the way, it's not just mass shootings. They commit more than 90% of all the murders, period. Cisgender men, they're clearly the most dangerous people by any metric, by orders of magnitude. I mean, so we should ban them from having firearms, don't you think? You could cut off their dicks too.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is a dead end.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The point is, Republican dumb shits don't play the identity politics game that the left invented.
Are you a little? Do you feel like the chickens have come to roast for you? Chickens have come to roost for us because we have promoted LGBTQ armament with our Cody Wilson ads. Yeah,
the queer armorer.
We're telling all the queer folk out there to build their own AR-15s and
strap up,
defend themselves. Yeah,
queer should strap up. I mean, There was back in the 70s or 80s, I think it was even the 70s, there was a group called the Pink Pistols. I think it was called the Pink Pistols in Greenwich Village in New York. After a string of gay bashing incidents. This was when gay bashing was a real thing, and gay men were getting beaten up on the street. Yeah, they armed themselves and walked around Greenwich Village, and it was awesome. It was a beautiful little moment. They were the Black Panthers for gays and lesbians at the time, but of course that didn't stick. Anyway, there are remnants of that. So the Queer Armorer is on Twitter. I think he has a YouTube channel. Or sorry, whatever fucking thing. Queer Armorer has a YouTube channel. Yeah, and it's very queer, very rainbowy, but very into guns and very into self-defense, and I love that. And that's all you need. That's the only politics you need, in my view.
Yeah, not abandoning our principles here, but I do think that the transgender movement, which is the most embittered, angry, violent rhetoric spewing political movement out there. There's a Trans Day of Vengeance happening this Saturday, right? Do you know about this?
Bad timing. Yeah.
Yeah. In town here, I've seen that for years. Where there'd be graffiti and vandalism leading up to and on.
They use the term vengeance?
Yes, I've seen graffiti saying the Trans Day of Vengeance. Yes, specifically, yes.
Is there and the Nashville cops are withholding the manifesto.
Nashville cops the FBI seized everything from what I've heard. And their FBI is withholding it, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was a kickoff to the Trans Day of Vengeance for this person. I wouldn't be surprised.
And some MSNBC commentators, and I think this trans shooter as well, were talking about how, Nashville or Tennessee pushed all these anti-trans bills recently. And so what do you expect? This is retaliation for that.
Yeah. Did you read about her family?
Not too in depth.
From what I read, they're Christian evangelicals who completely not only rejected outright her gender change, but did not allow her to wear boys' clothes in the house of any kind.
I'm very suspicious about this story.
Are you?
Yeah, she's 28.
That's true. Well, lots of people who are 28 live with their parents still.
True. Yeah.
I mean, we can we'll know soon enough where she lived, But
yeah.
It sounded like it was recent that she was living with them recently.
Also, the whole media is using the pronouns she to describe her.
Yeah.
When she identified as male. And this was only in the last few months that she started identifying as male.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's just this whole thing kind of stinks, and it's the first few days and the fog of war. Like, a lot of people were misreporting it, thinking that it was a male to female trans person, just because of their biases. But it's not practice nowadays for, journalistic entities to misgender somebody, which is what they've been doing to this person. So something about this is really suspicious.
Oh, really? You think possibly some kind of setup?
I don't know. I think that there's possibly sensationalist reporting about this. That is,
this was a clear victory for the right, though. This was the best thing that happened to the right. I mean, think about cops. Think about being a cop right now.
Yeah,
man, that video, holy shit, man. That was, not only did it look just like a first-person shooter video game, like just like one. That was the most dramatic cop video I think I've ever seen. And it's just the most heroic thing. Like, I hate fucking cops. Sorry. I hate cops, but boy, my heart was pumping and I was pretty much worshiping that guy for that. All of them, but especially the guy who pulled the trigger, the first one. I mean, I was just kind of in awe of him, frankly. And for that display of, what people are rightly calling masculine courage. I mean, that's an amazing thing that he did. And cops have been getting kicked in the teeth for about 10 years now. And I'll bet you they're going to use this video a lot. I'll bet you every department, and certainly the cops unions are going to use this video again and again and again. So it's great for cops, terrible for opponents of gun control, and great for conservatives because you've got this trans psycho shooting children in a Christian school, so it lets conservatives be the victims too.
Yeah,
right.
Christians love martyrs.
Yeah, famously,
yeah,
they do. So I mean, that was a beautiful setup for the right wing. They couldn't have asked for anything more. So if it's a setup, I would think it would be the local GOP doing it.
I don't know if it's a setup, but the media is awful, and I think that it might, especially with things like mass shootings that immediately get turned political. Like, as soon, the children, as soon as anybody hears anything's happening, the gun control people are out there immediately. Oh, there was this woman who was so suspicious that definitely looked like a crisis actor saying,
I saw this.
You saw that? I'm a survivor. Whenever I hear somebody.
Did you say she was in 2 shootings, mass shootings or something like that?
Yeah, I was just in a mass shooting. And
well, was another one too. Yeah. She was, I bet it was a crisis actor. She, there was a local news reporter and they started shooting and he starts talking and she just jumps in front of the camera and delivers a perfectly delivered speech.
Yeah.
About the need for gun control. It was about a 60-second speech. It was like a stump speech.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and she was pretending she was just some local concerned mother.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of money, the gun control lobby. They have a ton of money. And I think by now, I bet they rival the NRA in just general resources, the gun control side. It's a big part of the Democratic Party. Gun control is one of their major issues, top 10 issues for sure. And that's what really gets the base motivated. Again, that liberal white woman base, that's one of their top issues, maybe top 5 issues, actually.
No, yeah, it's up there.
So they're out there and they give money. They love giving money for that kind of thing. So I will bet you there's tons of crisis actors out there ready to give an impromptu speech about the need for gun control. In fact, I've seen it before, even with Parkland. I mean, it kind of began with Parkland. Parkland was really shady.
Yeah.
That whole thing is so shady. The fact that David Hogg's dad was an FBI agent.
Yeah.
The fact that it was just all of them sort of came out giving speeches. All these kids, all these like 16 and 17-year-olds were just perfectly ready to deliver speeches before the national media. Very polished. It was very weird. And I am quite sure that activist gun control lobbyists got into that school immediately, were already there just by luck, and coached those kids from the get-go. I think the whole part, because all those kids became celebrities. Remember that?
Yeah.
David Hogg's still a celebrity.
Man. Yeah. Well, and David Hogg and the people who became celebrities, were a building over from where the shooting was happening.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a false flag, but I think that this makes perfect sense. This is not even conspiratorial. Well, it is conspiratorial, but I mean, this seems totally plausible to me. I'm not talking about something should be even unexpected. Of course, there are highly motivated people who would love to seize on an opportunity like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure, and we know it's a very left-leaning school, like the student body and the parents to begin with. Mm-hmm. So there had to be gun control people,
dude,
there already.
Man, if I was 18 and somebody offered me, and I was articulate, and somebody offered me the chance to become a celebrity because I was a building over from a shooting, I would, I'd shave my head and I'd become whatever they want me to be, man.
They got flown to New York. All those kids got flown to New York and did a whole media tour in New York.
And they all got into Ivy League schools.
Yes. And David Hogg has like 500,000 Twitter followers or something, or maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah. He still doesn't have pubes though. He's like 21 and he doesn't have pubes.
Or a speck of testosterone.
Yeah. That's what Owen Benjamin got banned from Twitter for saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As he should. That's clearly beyond the pale.
Yeah, that's beyond the pale.
Talking about people's genitalia is no good. All right. We got to go. Thank you, Michael. This was a lot of fun. So right now, after Unreported, every week we go to Unregistered Live. Michael and I hang out with patrons of the show of Unregistered. And to do that, to become a patron, go to patreon.com/unregistered. And if you become a member at any level, you can see the URL link right there. Click on it and join us in the room. You don't have to participate. You don't have to show your face. You don't have to give your name. You can be completely anonymous, sit on the sidelines and just watch the antics, but we have a good time. So with that being said, Michael, thank you very much. And I will see you on the other side.
See you there. Peace.